All right. Hey, everyone, and welcome to the VOX Out of Office live stream. If you have not joined us before, thanks so much for joining us. We continue to do these on our Facebook and YouTube, and we're going to do them as long as you all are interested. So let us know in the chat if you have any videos you'd like to see in the future, or if you are just loving the streams, let us know. And until then, I'm just going to get on with things and talk a little bit about Radiohead. But first, I want to say hi to Thomas, or maybe it's Tomas from Brazil. Thank you, Tomas. We see you tagging us in your posts on Instagram all the time. And it's great to see that you're um, loving our amps and that they're working for you. You as well, Luis. Uh, Greeting from Chile. Very cool. I I wonder if this time zone works well for South America because we seem to have a lot of South American viewers on these streams when they're live. Either that or South America just loves Vox. So we are very appreciative of you all. Thank you all for joining us. And my name is Ian from Vox, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Radiohead today. We have done other artist live streams like this. I did one on the Beatles and one on Queen as well, where we talked about that artist's tone and how they get their variety of tones across their career using the Vox amps that they use. And if you want to see those old videos, if you haven't seen those yet, they are on a playlist on our YouTube page as well as still living on the Facebook page for you to go back and watch. They'll be staying there. And if you've already seen them, then I hope you enjoy this Radiohead episode. Radiohead is not only a classic artist and one who has written songs that prominently feature AC30s and used AC30s across their career, but they're also one of my favorite artists. So I was really looking forward to doing this one, and I am glad that you are all here to join us. Okay, so I'm going to turn up my mic since. Oh, wow, my mic was turned all the way down. Can you hear me now? Uh, Marcelo, can you hear me now? I turned up the mic volume, and David Wilson as well. I turned up that mic volume. So let me know if you can hear me. I'm going to kind of hold for a second while I wait to get a confirmation from you. All right. Yes. David and Bruno said yes. We can hear it now. Perfect. So thank you all for letting me know that. I put together this whole setup every week because it is at my regular desk, and so there's a lot of changes that I have to make and changes to my audio interface to get the mic in. So the gain was just turned all the way down. So thanks for letting me know. I'll go back and say thank you to Thom from Brazil. We love seeing your posts on Instagram. You always tag us, as well as Luis in Chile and Bruno from Brazil as well. And glad you are all hearing us now. Thank you for letting me know that. So I'm going to put back up this banner that says, feel free to ask me any questions. I'm also going to reiterate quickly what I said. Basically, we're going to keep doing these streams as long as you're enjoying them. So let us know in the chat or in the comments once this video is posted if you do love these videos and if you have any ideas for future videos, whether it's artists to cover in this series or if it is other types of videos. We've been trying to do our interview series as well as music theory lessons and guitar lessons. So let us know. Hi from Portugal. Thank you for joining us. And thank you, Lauren, for joining from LA. So what I have for you this week is an artist episode. We talked about the Beatles in a previous one and Queen, and you can watch those videos. They're in a playlist on our YouTube page, or they're still up on the Facebook. You have to go into the videos tab and find them. And we just went through the tones from across their career. And I wanted to do Radiohead for this next one because not only are they a classic artist who used AC30s throughout the majority of their career, and sort of put that sound in a different context for a lot of listeners with Creep and High and Dry, and these songs that it's not the classic chime necessarily that you're thinking of. Plus, Radiohead is one of my absolute favorite artists, so I was looking forward myself to doing this. So before I start playing some songs, I want to show you that I do have my telly going into these two pedals. The Oxford Drive from the King of Gear Effects is actually, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the King of Gear in a second, but this is my friend David. He has a website where he lists all this Radiohead gear like chronologically throughout their entire career on specific recordings and tours. His website is an incredible resource, and he started making pedals recreating Radiohead's tones. So I got this Oxford Drive, which is an homage to the Marshall Shredmaster that Johnny Greenwood used for so long, and that is specifically tuned in to get these tones. So we'll look at that, but really the idea with this is just distortion, and then Big Ear Loaf. It's a cream pedal, so it's kind of getting blown out by the light, but Big Earloaf, this is a nice kind of vintage sounding open fuzz. There are plenty of other fuzzes that you can use to get these sounds. I chose this one specifically because it does that sort of console fuzz sound. I used it in the Beatles video for the same reason, because there's one example here later on that I want to show that blown out console sound, but it's also a versatile fuzz in its own right, which is why I'm choosing that. But the point is, I'm going to put up a little banner at the bottom of the video here so you can see which pedal is on. But until then, I will just be playing clean. So if you don't see that banner up, I'm just playing clean. And these are, the idea is just to have distortion or fuzz. Not necessarily you need these specific pedals, because these are not the pedals that Radiohead used. These are pedals I have that get these sounds. So guitar covers, the pedal is from Big Ear Pedals. But like I said, I'm just using it as a placeholder for fuzz. It is not the pedal that Radiohead themselves used. In fact, I'm using it. I found a good price on one on Reverb, the Bixonic Expandora, I think is how you say it, but that's this kind of legendary fuzz that Johnny Greenwood uses live when playing Body Snatchers, which is what I wanted to show this fuzz for later on. But I want to start with the clean tones of Radiohead because there's a lot of good clean tones there. And the clean tones show off something great about the AC30 in that it can be very chimey without giving you that classic Beatles sound. It's not quite, it's Radiohead is this sound as a band, not quite the Brit pop of the 60s or 70s, but they are, and this guitar tone is kind of taking that and modernizing it for the 90s and then forward. So Alexi, I only am using the Oxford Drive because I have it. It's a very limited pedal because the King of Gear is primarily a website, and I'm actually going to post the link for you. Check it out here. I posted it in the comments. It's a great resource to see what gear Radiohead used. But basically, the idea when I get to that is just distortion. It's not necessarily this specific pedal. So we're going to get on to some tones. I am showing you some clean version of the Radiohead tone This is what they were doing on their first couple records. And then even I have an example for later clean tones. So I have the controls, the gain set a little bit below noon. Bass is at noon. Treble is a little bit before noon. Reverb is just like barely on. I've done this before where it's just barely on so you can feel it, but you're not hearing that splashy reverb. And then volume just set so that we can hear it well. So I am going to get into the playing. This song from Pablo Honey is called Lurgy, and it sounds like this. Very simple guitar part, but you're hearing that real Vox chime, the real focus of the amp right there. Oh, sorry, I kicked the amp. Right there in the upper mids. It's not that very present chime of if I turn the treble up. That's maybe more original Britpop, but as you turn the treble down, that's sort of the Radiohead version of Britpop, which is the Radiohead version of that classic Vox chime. So there's no better way. I wanted to start with that because it's this very nice melodic part, which will become unusual as we get into later videos or later songs. But this is a very simple melodic arpeggiation on a C chord with the band and vocals filling in that space around it, letting the Vox just kind of do its thing. So this is the AC10. And this is not what Radiohead themselves use, but this is what I wanted to show you these tones on because it is the top boost channel of an AC30. So you have that classic top boost sound and can dial in these tones. So next, I think we should just move on to the classic. So there you hear the high and dry riff, that classic octave melody, and then very simple chords. It's just an E major, F sharp minor, A major, but that top end, the ringing notes, and then that Vox chime really brings out some character from this. You're not leaving that as a simple rhythm part. And as I listened through Radiohead's discography to get ready for this stream, that's something I really noticed, is that a lot of their clean tones are actually acoustic guitar, because it cuts through and really lets you hear the character and the sound of those chords. And then you'll get examples like this in High and Dry, where it's like almost a little bit more than a rhythm part. So they add in the doubling with electric guitar and that clean Vox sound, and it is really lovely. And that song is a classic for a reason. So there is early Radiohead. That's, their first two albums. And then, of course, Radiohead is known for getting kind of weird as they went on. And that's something people like me love about them. That's something that turned others off to them. I wanted to play an example from Hail to the Thief, which was their sixth full-length album. This is There. So I want to answer a question from Alexi. I think Radiohead is an artist that you'll find. They have three guitarists who all at one point used an AC30. Johnny Greenwood still uses an AC30, at least as far as their last live session videos or tours, though they haven't played in a while. I'm not sure about what he necessarily plays for each recording. That sometimes can be unknown. Thom Yorke, the same thing. He's been playing one since the 90s, and he continues to play it, but isn't the primary guitar player. And then Ed O'Brien, who has an excellent solo album which came out last year. He played an AC30 throughout the 90s and early 2000s, and then switched to use other amps to find his sound that works. And so they're a band that, unlike some others who found their sound almost immediately, I think we talked about that in the Queen episode, Brian May's sound sort of stays strong throughout their career because Brian May had a very defined sound from even the first record. Where Radiohead, they continually shift and change. So sometimes they will use the top boost. Sometimes they will use the normal channel. I believe that Johnny Greenwood uses the top boost channel live, but I can't say for certain. But that is why I'm using the AC10, because it's very easy to at least recreate those Radiohead tones. So that their riff. I didn't change the controls in the amp, but all of a sudden it has a much darker feeling than all from the same guitar, the same pickups, the same amp. I didn't touch anything. And then when I go to that chorus section, it opens back up and starts to feel more like the tone from High and Dry. And I think that is what really interests me about Radiohead and has had me so fascinated with their guitar tones. And others, that's why websites like The King of Gear exist, because they're able to take one guitar tone and turn it into this dark, brooding, like almost as if I rolled off the treble and very, mid-focused the amp. All with chord voicing. And I think that's really incredible. and something to always take into account with these artist tone videos. And so I always say it's that half of the equation is their settings on their amp. Half of the equation is what they're actually playing, because playing a G chord like this in the chorus versus that in the verse, it's a very, very different sound, even with all of the same rig. So that is a really great tone that I wanted to show for that reason. And then I have one more clean tone from their most recent album. This is my favorite Radiohead song. It's called Deck's Dark. And I want to show you this lead line that comes about halfway through the song. What I did was turned the spring reverb in the AC10. It is a digital spring reverb emulation. But I turned that all the way up, and you're going to hear why. I'm going to play the notes very softly and then slap the strings on the off beats, because what they do is match up that spring hit with the snare drum, and it creates this really, really interesting guitar tone. So it sounds like this. So as you could hear, I'm really playing with the back and forth between the spring, that hit, and very, very soft notes. Almost as if there's no reverb on the picked notes. It's sort of smearing them, but you're not hearing that drippy. You're not hearing that. It's something really unique. I haven't seen another artist do that, or at least I haven't noticed. And so I wanted to show that. It's a very simple riff, and just keep moving on. I'm going to tune real quick because I have two riffs I want to show you in drop D from the album In Rainbows. And these are going to be the bridge between clean tones and our dirty fuzz tones. So Tomas says, nice reverb. Thank you, Tomas. I really like the spring reverb that is in the AC10. Don't let the digital part of it scare you off. It's certainly an incredible reverb, and really sounds in a lot of ways similar to the digital reverb that you'll find in an AC30 or AC15. So now I'm on to drop D. We're going to play two songs from In Rainbows. This was, of course, that classic album that changed the music industry with Pay What You Want release, and sort of a surprise drop. They released it with not much warning and not much advertising. Very, very interesting how they did that, and certainly caught a lot of attention. But the album itself is incredible as well. And this cleaner riff from it in House of Cards is just a nice, I have the reverb back down. It's a nice, again, just way of showing that clean tone, the Radiohead clean tone. very simple, and I wanted to show you this because it's actually very similar to the high and dry riff, but in drop D, where high and dry is this. Oh, sorry, I was playing the octaves wrong, because high and dry uses octaves, where this riff uses a major seventh for that third of the chord. I'm trying to show how I'm playing this. So the two notes I'm playing are on the A and G strings, but they're on the same ninth fret, which gets you a major seventh between them and this nice major 9 chord. So just, it's a very similar riff, but just that change in voicing the chord again can make a huge difference. So that is why I wanted to show that riff, and then because it let me play more in drop D than just this one riff that's coming next, but this is one that is a must. I'm turning on this fuzz, and this is one of my favorite Radiohead riffs. It is from the song Body Snatchers. So there you go. Big fuzz. And I think what's interesting about this tone, if you listen to the record that is on in Rainbows, if you listen to that record and this song, it has this very big open sound. And it's just unusual. When I first heard this, it sent me down this search for finding that tone. And I believe that they recorded that guitar direct into the recording console. Classic trick. The Beatles did that. Other artists have done that. Gets you this very different voiced fuzz if you push the recording console hard enough. And then the question for me is, how do you recreate that with an amp and a pedal, as opposed to having a guitar console or a recording console with you when you're playing live or something like that? And so Radiohead themselves, Johnny Greenwood uses the Bixonic Expandora, which is this classic rare cult pedal that is this very similar fuzz to the sound that you're going to hear from the recording console. And so I wanted to show this with a more vintage voiced fuzz, but set kind of dark to emulate that. That is how I found to get there the best. This can even be done with like a fuzz face and playing on your neck pickup and rolling the tone back a little bit. There's a lot of variability here. So yes, Tomas, I hope I'm saying that right, said great fuzz sound. I love Vox with fuzz. I do as well, and that's partially why I wanted to show a couple of these songs. I wanted to get into the one, because some of Radiohead's classic riffs are their fuzzier riffs, but also two, because it's a really incredible sound. And I think some people, the chime of Vox makes them think that it won't play well. That's certainly not the case, and I love it. Lots of players use it, so certainly something to explore if you are playing some fuzzy tunes. So next, I want to show you, I want to go back to Airbag from I had played that at the very beginning of the video. I have the King of Gear Oxford Drive on. Like I said, this is just a stand-in for any distortion, a Rat, a Distortion Plus, a DS1 even. You can get this sound. It's not the sound of a pedal. It's the sound of distortion into a Vox. And so I want to show you this riff with both distortion and then with fuzz to compare. So here's first with the distortion. Oh, not yet. I need to retune. Sorry about that. It sounded very cool, but not quite the right sound. Even the key you're playing a song in can make a difference in how it feels. So, okay, back to the riff. So I rolled back my guitar's volume. There you go. That is the Airbag riff with distortion, and you can see how that cleans up when you roll back your guitar's volume. And now I want to show it to you with fuzz, so we can compare and contrast. Now rolling back my guitar volume. So that is the Airbag riff. I am going to now turn off this banner because I have no pedals on. Right up until now, we haven't touched the amp settings except for the reverb. And I want to turn the gain up and adjust the settings a little bit. I've got the gain about 2 o'clock. I'm going to turn the bass up to about 1 o'clock, leave the treble at about noon. And then I have the volume turned down so we can get the right so actually turn the gain up a little bit more. We're close to the max gain for the amp. And I want you to hear this with just amp breakup, because I think that's another valid way of playing tones like this. And so I wanted to show all the options. Here is Airbag with just the AC10 gain cranked up. Rolling back my volume. So there you go. That is just Amp Breakup. And the reason I wanted to show those settings and that variety between all three is because I went back when I was preparing for this video. I went back to watch the potent pairings video that Reverb did. That was showing Radiohead tones as using guitar pedal setups. And I watched that because I wanted to see what portion of Paranoid Android they chose to play, because there are so many wild parts of that song, and I wanted to try and show something from it. And Joe from Reverb actually plays part of the solo that I am nowhere near going to attempt. So that was cool to watch. But when I was looking to find Paranoid Android within that video, I noticed he played Airbag with just a DS1. And I was like, that's odd. I've always thought of this as one of my favorite fuzz riffs. So why is he playing it with a DS1? And that's why I tried the distortion on this and realized, wow, this actually sounds more like the record. I have been playing it wrong for so long. And that's actually a riff that I basically, any new fuzz pedal I try, I play Airbag first. And turns out it's not even a fuzz riff necessarily. And so I thought that was cool to learn. And then trying them all back and forth, you can see the distortion was a little bit brighter and it brought out that pick attack in a nice way, which is what I think was happening on the record. The fuzz really smoothed it out and turned it into this monstrous, almost kind of more psychedelic rock kind of thing, just big fuzz, which is cool. And I picked up on this as I was playing. I don't know if any of you did. I actually played it slower with the fuzz and then corrected for myself when I went to the amp breakup, because just that sound of fuzz made me want to play slow and heavy. And so that was interesting to see just those differences in those two. And then, turning the amp up, you don't quite get to the same gain range here. Maybe if I put a boost in front of the amp, but I wanted to show you, if you just have an AC10 or an AC4 or, what AC15 or 30, whichever amp you have, you can still get this tone by turning it up and then turning that master volume down. It might be a little loud to play at home, but it is a really interesting tone, and it gets really close to the distortion. It has a lot of the same brightness and pick attack, which surprised me. I only tried that because of that video, seeing the DS1. I was like, well, let me try all the options. And it was pretty incredible seeing that. So that was just something I wanted to share as part of that. Thank you, Fernando. I'm glad you're enjoying the video. I Might Be Wrong is an incredible song. I made a playlist for myself of songs to learn for this, or some I knew how to play, like Airbag, some I didn't yet. And it was really long and I had to cut things out, and really went with the ones that just were very focused on guitar tone. So that's why a lot isn't present here. I Might Be Wrong was on the list and I took it off. So sorry about that. That means I didn't end up learning it, so I can't show you that off the top of my head. But you're right. That is a great riff that shows that sound, and an excellent song worth giving a listen to. So from here, I want to take a step back. Thank you, Bruno. I'm glad you're enjoying hearing these tones, and I hope you're learning something. And I wanted to take a step back from here and show, this fuzz so far has been, and I think of it as being from OK Computer onward, and that is not necessarily true. It's really present, the fuzz and distortion, I should say, it's really present on the Bends and Pablo Honey, just in different ways. So I want to play a song just from the Bends, and that has an interesting riff that you can hear it getting towards the beginning of that OK Computer sound, sort of like a hint of what was to come in the future. So I'm going to turn this distortion on. We may as well do the same thing and try this riff with both. And then the last two riffs I play, I'll just do one setting because we're getting close to the end of the stream. So anyway, this is just from the bends. So this song has that cool octave tremolo pick. Which I won't tremolo pick or play the full thing because it really sounds good in a mix, but me playing it myself sounds a little out of place. But that big chorus riff. That's what I want to focus on. That is really cool how it, those chords are not quite what you would typically use. And that's, I think, something you'll find a lot in Radiohead. That is a C, then down to an F sharp major, and then down to an F major. Very, very interesting. I like it a lot. And turning on that distortion brings out these weird resonances in it and the open strings and clashing dissonant notes. So now I want to try that with the fuzz and see how that compares. Sorry, I keep wanting to then go to the E chord, which would make sense with the F sharp. Sorry about that. So that, I think, on the record is a big distortion. And yes, huge sound. I think that's how I would put it too. This is sort of the moment that woke me up to, whoa, Radiohead can get big and in your face. They certainly did on Pablo Honey, but the bends is just, they got into some of these weird chord progressions and, really sort of hinting at where they would go in the future. And I love this riff for that. And I think the distortion brings out that clashing. I think where some people find distortion harsh at times if it has too much high end, and worry that will not quite work with the chime of a Vox clean tone. And then you turn distortion on. That's bringing out these like clashing frequencies and notes. It's really odd. And I think Radiohead used that to their advantage with this bright distortion that just pushes it into, look, we're being dissonant on purpose instead of, wait, they played the wrong chord. So a really interesting use of that. The fuzz doesn't quite, because it's darker, it doesn't quite bring out those frequencies. And there are certainly bright fuzzes out there that you could do this with, but this example is at least not with the darker vintage sounding fuzz, that's not quite what we're getting. So I'm going to play a riff from Pablo Honey, or a chord progression, I should say. This is from the song Anyone Can Play Guitar, and really more of a typical Brit rock distortion sound in Radiohead finding their sound and what made them interesting. So there's some oddities about the arrangement of this song. Same way with that first, we started with a song from Pablo Honey that was like that as well. And so it's kind of that's what I think is interesting about Pablo Honey. I love to go back and listen to that. For that reason, you find these like hints of what radio would be, but it's also on its own a great Brit rock record. And this riff, I think, is sort of combining both of those into classic Brit rock sound, but a little bit of the weird Radioheadness in just the arrangement. So playing the guitar won't quite show that, but you'll hear Anyone Can Play Guitar. It's a neat song. And so it sounds like this. So just power chords. But in this, sort of hot, fast-paced, quickly moving, those chords are just thrown at you in this very 90s way. I think using the Oxford Drive, which is an homage to the Marshall Shredmaster, is a really cool way to show this, because it's that 90s sound where it's like, hey, this isn't your typical smooth distortion. It's just like, here's in your face, and just sort of that deal with it attitude of 90s alt rock, which is very cool. And I think you'll find the same with using a DS1 or Distortion Plus, things like that. Just that embracing the harshness, I think, is something Radiohead does well. So that's that chord progression. Very simple, very fun. So sounds great into the AC10. I just love distortion and the AC10, and specifically the AC10, I think, handles those higher gain sounds well. But all Vox amps, especially the AC10, AC15, AC30. So lastly, I want to play for you a small section of Paranoid Android. It is a wild ride of a song, and listening to it, it's like, I know this has all these iconic riffs in it, but which one do I pick? And weirdly, they're strung together in a way that they're all slightly different hearing them in context than how I always play them isolated. So that was neat to study in a way. I am going to turn on the fuzz again, and we are just gonna dive into that. So that is Paranoid Android. That's that huge fuzz sound, and it is most certainly fuzz, or at least that's what I hear and recreate it with best. And that's just a fun riff to play. I think it does some neat things with that sort of chromatic movement. Very similar to Queen in a way, odd comparison to make, but Queen has some very interesting, they're more dramatic riffs, are doing some interesting walk down movements. So that's what this riff reminds me of in an odd way, but it is just this sign of here rock and roll is changing and Radiohead is doing what they want. And it's just a cool riff. And that is Fuzz into the AC10. And so that's it. I covered all of the Radiohead tones I wanted to show you all. And I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed watching this. It's been really fun to walk through these with you. Let us know in the comments or in the chat if you're still watching, if you'd love to see more videos like this, if you have any artists you'd love to see us walk through the tones of, or any music theory or guitar lessons you'd love to see on the streams. And if you have any questions, I'm going to put up the questions banner again. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm just going to play Airbag again because I love that riff. And if there are no questions, I'll just end on that. So thank you all very much for watching. Hey, Artie, thank you for joining us. If you missed the stream, it will be up in a few hours, archived on the YouTube page. YouTube takes some time to process it since these are hour-long videos. But if you did not miss the stream, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, it'll be up for you to watch later on. And thank you, Tomas. Thank you for sticking around the whole time. It was great to have you and Bruno, who kept commenting throughout. A lot of you. It was great to see that. Thank you for watching and interacting with me. And thank you, Morabite. Thank you very much for watching. And everybody else who watched but maybe did not comment. I appreciate it. All of us at VOX appreciate it. And I hope you join us for future videos. And with that, I'm going to just end the stream. I think you've heard all the Radiohead tones I can talk about, at least for now. Maybe we will dive into some of the weirder parts of Radiohead's tones, not just the clean and dirt tones. But we're not quite at that point. We are keeping it simple for now. So if you want to see more from these videos, we have our archives that you can watch, and we will continue to do the videos. And if not, thank you. And thank you. I cannot read your name. I'm really sorry. I do not read Acrylic, but thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed the riffs, and I hope you join us in the future. And, listen to Radiohead records for more reference for these. They're really neat how they use their tones, clean, dirty, fuzz, the brightness of it, the darkness of it. Very cool. So with that, thank you all for joining us, and we will see you later.